On today's show, we again dig into our archives and go back to 2010. The venue is Sydney Motorsport Park, and this week we look back on the Eastern Creek 8-hour production car race, held on a hot and sunny December day a little over 10 years ago. Then we wind a few years further back to 2006 and head to Mount Panorama Bathurst. We take a look back at the second round of the Australian GT Championship as part of the inaugural Bathurst Motor Festival, featuring star names such as Peter Hackett, David Wall, Greg Crick and a future Bathurst 1000 champion in David Reynolds. This is Speedweek.
And hello everybody, welcome along to Eastern Creek International Raceway for the 8-hour production car race that will feature cars like the BMW, the Subaru, the Honda, and of course the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10, the cars that you're used to seeing out on the road doing what we love, racing out there on the circuit. We caught up with a few of the drivers and the teams in the lead up to this 8-hour event.
Yeah, Glenn went out for dinner last night and apparently something he's eaten hasn't agreed with him. Both himself and Steve Glennie have had a little bit to eat that's upset their tummies, but I'm sure they'll be right by about lunchtime today.
And tell us about the strategy you've got going today, because you've got 3 cars out there.
Oh, we had a really good strategy till a couple of drivers got sick. No, we'll just run around. Neil will probably have to do a double stint to give Glenn more time to get some fluid in the system, and then basically we'll just see what the pace is set by the BMW and the other Subaru, and we'll work our strategy around that.
And with Neil Crompton and Glenn Seaton, you've got some big names here. Are you expecting some good results?
Of course we're expecting good results. We've got good drivers, good cars, great weather.
What's your strategy?
The strategy with the way the heat was yesterday, I think we're going to change driver every time we're in for fuel. So every hour and a half we'll probably see a new driver in there, providing there's no pace car incident that might bring us in. That might change our strategy.
And Barry, tell me about what it's like for hydration. It's pretty hot out there today.
Yeah, really hot. We need to take on a lot of fluids, otherwise, the heat yesterday was just pretty unbearable, and the tyres didn't last as good as we thought. So as far as the drivers and the tyres, we've got to look after both of them.
You've got experience with endurance racing, but is there anything you can do for race day to prepare yourself?
No, just keep drinking a lot of fluid, that's all. Nothing much.
Qualified front of the grid yesterday, only needed to go out for one qualifying session, but then from the rear of the grid today, what happened?
Yeah, look, I think it was just a last-minute change of tactics within the team. The team made a decision to do that, but yesterday qualifying went really well. Qualified on pole. The car's really good to drive. Made my job very easy, so we're looking good for today.
Okay, what's your strategy today that you can tell us about? When are you hoping to hop in the car?
Yeah, look, I'll probably hop into the car when Bob comes in for fuel, the first fuel stop. Today's about tyre management. We saw earlier in the year that the 6-hour, the right front tyre is the one that can let go, so we've got to manage that tyre and keep up the leaders and get through to the last hour of the day.
Brian Golding, this isn't just a one-off 8-hour endurance race. I believe there's more to come for 2011.
There is, Janina. We're anticipating this event. It's just started and it's rather small, but next year it's going to be part of the Endurance Championship, back on again at the same time of the year. Now we've only got 13 cars today, but next year we're hoping to at least double that, and we think when it is part of the championship, a lot more reason for people to compete. They know now that it's a good event. They know that we're offering some good prize money. So we're very confident that it's going to start climbing in the years to come.
We're here in the Crompton Seaton garage, and I've got a wall of tyres behind me. We've got both run-in tyres and we've got some green tyres as well, and they seem to be using a mix of Dunlop and Bridgestone. Now it's interesting, we've heard their pit strategy is to change the front right tyre every single time they pit, because this track is so hard on that particular tyre. It's the only way they're going to last 8 hours.
Well, drivers are out on the circuit at the moment trying to generate a little bit of heat into their tyres and brakes before the 8-hour gets underway here at Eastern Creek International Raceway. It's a tough race circuit, a circuit that can keep you right on the edge of your seat, as Neil Crompton is about to show us in the 35 racer a hot lap around this fantastic race circuit. A very fast straightaway to kick things off down across the start-finish line, and then the very tricky turn 1, and there's a bump just on entry, Lockie, which can really upset the apple cart.
Turn 1's one of the fastest left-hand corners on any Australian racetrack. It requires commitment and bravery. CROMPTON running right out onto the exit, concrete extension and then hard under brakes for turn number 2, one of the prime overtaking opportunities around this Eastern Creek circuit.
Interesting line that the Evo 10 takes through turn 2, over the top of the rise now. Very smooth, very controlled, as you'd expect from a person with a mountain of experience like Neil CROMPTON. He raced in so many different parts of the world, in so many different makes and models of cars. He adapts very quickly to production car racing. Down through turn 4 they go, behind Corporate Hill.
Turn number 5, a couple of constant radius corners, very quick changes of direction required, then into the turn 6 and 7 complex. The right-hand kink followed by the left-hand sweeping corner.
Tell you what, he hasn't missed one single apex yet. If you're a young race car driver coming up through the ranks and you want to know how to drive Eastern Creek, record this and watch it over and over again, because Neil CROMPTON is doing an unbelievable job out there. Smooth, controlled, easy on the gas, nice on the brakes, picking up the apex. That's the first time I've seen him double dip into a corner, and that was turn 9 at Eastern Creek, one of the most difficult parts of this circuit under braking. Up through the final complex, nice and controlled, right on the edge of adhesion there.
And very important to get a good run out of this final corner. Turn number 12 for the run onto the long main straightaway to complete a hot lap of Eastern Creek Raceway.
Well, if you'd like to know how it's done, that is exactly the best way to do it. Neil CROMPTON in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10 and a hot lap of Eastern Creek just to get us into the mood for this 8-hour enduro. A long race. Let's take a look at your grid. It's the Quinns that find themselves on pole position. Then Metzler, Walsh and Mark King on the second row alongside them.
In position number 3, we've got the BMW 335i of the Morecambs and Gary Holt. Gavin Bullis, Jim Hunter and Barton Moore to start out of position 4. As we run down to the back of the grid, Neil CROMPTON and Glenn Seaton will start at the rear of the field after making a last-minute starting driver change after qualifying.
There's the keen Alexander Heath Mini out on the track. Should be very, very good. It's going to be light on tyres. It's going to be very, very easy on fuel consumption. You'd expect that to get right to the checkered flag without too many issues.
And very high ambient temperatures being recorded here at Eastern Creek today as we see the Neil CROMPTON and Glenn Seaton car. They're actually going to start from pit lane, taking the opportunity to fill that car up right to the brim with a full tank of fuel.
Yeah, logical way to go. You don't win this race, an 8-hour enduro on the first lap, so why not bring it in, make sure that everything's A-OK, fill the fuel tank right up so that you can then dictate exactly when you want to come in and make your first pit stop rather than when you have to. OK, we're getting ready for the start. It's going to be a long, long day for many of these drivers. Hot conditions here at Eastern Creek Raceway, and the racing itself is about to get extreme as well. Waiting for the start, and the VIP PETFOODS machine off the line with Quinn at the helm, getting away very, very cleanly, and will lead them down to turn 1 on this opening lap.
Great start from Tony Quinn in the VIP PETFOODS Mitsubishi Evo 9. Beat Mark King off the line, and it's Gary Holt who slots into position number 3 in the BMW, with Gavin Bullis, who has started in the Subaru WRX, making up the top 4 and already coming through very quickly from the back of the field in the second of the Products Mitsubishi Evo 10s is Bob Pearson.
Well, that Gary Holt car is a proven workhorse. It's won the 12-hour at Bathurst, and of course, when it comes to the Eastern Creek layout, Gary Holt knows it extremely well, as now Neil CROMPTON leads the Product Motorsport number 35 car out onto the track after starting from pit lane. But Gary Holt actually owns the car track at almost up near Corporate Hill. So, I mean, if there's any driver that should know this track like the back of his hand, it should be Gary Holt.
Not only has he won the Bathurst 12-hour twice, but he's also had lots of success in various Australian production car championships over the years as well. So very good choice for Barry and Nathan Morecambe to choose Gary Holt as the third driver for that BMW for this Eastern Creek 8-hour production car endurance race.
There's the 77 of Jim Hunter. Barton Moore stepping on board that car as well. Very experienced campaigner who raced in the British Formula 3 Championship in the scholarship class and took out races and raced alongside current Formula One drivers like Bruno Senna, etc.
And Gavin Bullis already looking racy, starting to apply the pressure to Gary Holt in the BMW as they head up through the final sequence of corners to complete this opening lap. We go on board now with Bob Pearson in the number 33 Products car.
He's one of the great guys of Australian motorsport, Bob Pearson. He's been around for a long, long time. Over the years, I expect has invested a lot of money into this sport. It's his passion, it's his desire, and he just never, ever thinks about retiring.
No, he's had starts at the Bathurst 1000 over the years as well, and has put a lot of time, a lot of effort, lots of money and lots of preparation into this three-car Products Mitsubishi team. As we see the number 11 BMW go through, up the inside of Mark King goes Gary Holt into second position at turn number 2.
Well, Mark King, he's certainly in the right camp at the moment. He's got Dr. Anton Metzler in that car as well, so any issues, any muscle strains, any problems whatsoever, and they should be able to sort that out. That's the battle for third, and the 77 car of Hunter, Moore and Bullis goes through and picks up another spot. So only early laps, but they're really out there racing at the moment. Look at that sideways, the product cars.
Mark King's just dropping back a bit. He seems to be just easing off the pace a little bit, probably thinking that there's a long way to go in this motor race and maybe just backing off a little bit to conserve the car, but he's lost a couple of positions in the last few corners. He's about to concede another one to his teammate, the team owner in fact, because Bob Pearson goes through around Corporate Hill to move up to fourth position.
Yeah, there's obviously something dramatically wrong. It's very slow, that Mark King car out of the corner, and Pearson able to get through almost at will. He had 2 or 3 attempts at it. Was very polite, because in a long race like this you don't want to be, banging fenders and things like that. So in the early stages of this race you will expect them to give each other a little bit of racing room, but in the last hour of the race I wouldn't be so kind.
Tyre conservation is going to be very important throughout this 8-hour race. Very, very high track temperatures being reported. We've seen track temperatures in excess of 60 degrees over the weekend, so it's really going to punish the tyres, particularly the front right-hand tyre, as we see another passing move with Bob Pearson making up another place now, moving up into third position, overtaking Gavin Bullis.
You see why he's not interested in retiring? He keeps going forward. He's got a very good little setup at the moment, the Product Motorsport team. And Pearson on a charge, working his way through the field, right up behind the BMW and starting to make it look very second-rate too, isn't it? He's closed right in through turn 2. Now through turn 3, the BMW just gives itself a little bit of breathing space, but you feel that's going to be limited. Under brakes, Pearson just able to close the gap and now starts applying the blowtorch.
Car number 33 has a good look up the inside of Gary Holt into turn number 5. Gary Holt does the sensible thing and gives him racing room. They're side by side on the exit of the corner, heading up into turn 6 and 7, and Pearson goes through into second position. Now he can set off after the runaway race leaders, the Tony and Clark QUINN car.
Now that's something you don't get to say in a motorsport commentary session very often. Gary Holt does the sensible thing. I'm only joking, Gary. I'm only joking. You know the phone's going to ring. No, he's a great guy, Gary. He's very experienced, not just in race cars, and I'm not just trying to make up for this, but he's extremely good too when it comes to yachting. Have a go at this, though. He's under pressure. It's the battle for third spot, and the car goes down. The number 11 BMW down another spot with the Jim Hunter entered Barton Moore, Gavin Bullis and Jim Hunter car coming forward 1 extra spot.
Gavin Bullis currently at the wheel of that car.
I'll just point out, more often than not, in Holt's team, he has a guy by the name of Michael Spees that does all the tactics for these long races. Now, Michael Spees is a man who has won multiple Sydney to Hobart yacht races. He's won in record time. He's won under handicap conditions. A very long-time campaigner. And when it comes to tacticians, he is probably one of the best in motorsport, because not only is he a mad racer himself, he started racing HQs a few years ago and fell in love with the sport. He just has this very level-headed way of looking at things, and I guarantee you it is a massive advantage to the Gary Holt team having him on board.
Well, 8 hours would feel like a walk in the park for them then, wouldn't it? Because how long does the average Sydney to Hobart yacht race go for? Probably about 60 hours.
Well, I think the quickest he's done it's in about 3 days or something ridiculous like that. There is the Holt car, the Morecambe Motorsport entered machine. going down another spot. So the BMW just pacing itself out there at the moment. Now, the BMW has been known, particularly in hot conditions, to suffer from some brake problems. Let's go down and find out from Nigel Bollings how the car is performing at the moment.
How's the race going for you so far?
Early stages, Janina. Now we're in the BM. We haven't got the advantage the four-wheel drives have at this circuit. So it's in good hands with Gary, and he's driving it like he should in a way of an endurance race. Like I said, early stage.
Welcome back to Eastern Creek International Raceway. We are about half an hour into this 8-hour enduro, and the pressure is still on, Lockie.
It certainly is. The Tony and Clark QUINN car is way out in front at the moment, but a great battle happening for second position between Bob Pearson in the number 33 Mitsubishi Evo 10 and the number 77 Subaru WRX STI, currently being driven by Gavin Bullis.
Well, right from the get-go, Bob Pearson's been applying the pressure to everyone else out there, but this is the first time we see him come under pressure, and it looks like he's going to lose second. The Hunter car goes up the inside in a beautiful manoeuvre on the exit of turn 1, locks the door on the turn 2 entry. Pearson tries to go around the outside using the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10 four-wheel drive, but unable to do it. And there it is, the 77 car picks up another spot.
That was a beautifully executed passing manoeuvre. Gavin Bullis set him up through turn number 1, got a better run through the high-speed corner, and then made the move under brakes into turn number 2. Now, this is the inaugural Eastern Creek 8-hour race. We're going to catch up with the event organiser, Jeff Arnold, who's down with Sam in the pits.
Okay, here with Jeff Arnold, head of the Australian Racing Drivers Club and organiser of this event. How's it been organising it, bringing it to this point?
It's been quite exciting getting it together because it's part of the commitment that the club have to motor racing. We want to develop it further, and this is the first of many races of its kind.
So we stepped up another 2 hours to 8 hours. What's involved in pushing that extra mile, or several, to get up to this kind of endurance level?
There's a lot more work you have to do on the car. It has to be a little bit tougher. You've got to make sure that you've got the pit stops set down properly. With driver changes in a sprint race for 1 hour, you just have a single driver. You set the car up for a short race. This means the car's got to be more reliable. You've got to have the team ready to do tyre changes, refuel, and make sure that the car is pretty much bulletproof. Well-made car will drive through anyway, and some of the smaller cars don't need enormous amounts of preparation. They're not thoroughbreds, they're just good workhorses, and they'll race for the full 8 hours, basically exactly the same as you buy them from the showroom.
You've got quite a lot of prize money on offer for this event.
Yes, we put a total package together of $100,000, which includes some travel money for the people from interstate, but the outright winner gets prize money, and then first, second and third in every category is going to be receiving prize money. We believe that it was important to start putting something back into motorsport, and by making this a grand final of production car racing in Australia, we can encourage people to get back into basically grassroots car racing, and production cars should be that. What wins on Sunday sells on Monday, hopefully.
Well, the staff at Eastern Creek International Raceway have worked very hard to get this event up and running, and have already been rewarded for their efforts, because we've seen some spectacular on-track racing. First of the front runners to make a pit stop, it's the Jim Hunter rented Subaru STI, and that's a relatively short first stint for them. They've only gone probably just over 3/4 of an hour, so I'd suggest that they're probably suffering fairly major tyre wear issues, because I very much doubt that car would have gone right to the end of its tank full of fuel.
Well, they've been racing pretty hard. So, a flat tyre by the looks of things. I'm wondering if that's the case. Front right looks a little bit low, and I thought I saw a whiff of smoke as Gavin Bullis drove it into pit lane. Of course, Gavin has been around in motorsport for quite some time, a very hard campaigner, and he wouldn't like to have to cruise around on a lap when he knows that the car's capable of much faster lap times, and he's the sort of driver that would want to squeeze every ounce that he could out of it. You can see he wants to get on with it too.
I can imagine, obviously, not an ideal situation for this team, having to make an earlier pit stop than their rivals, and a problem for the 147 Alfa Romeo, the Nathan Gotch, David Filippetto, Glenn Smith entry, as we go back on board with Bob Pearson in car number 33. And he's just behind the Subaru, which has obviously rejoined the race a lap down now after that pit stop.
I've got to be honest, that's something you don't see from the Alfa Romeo very often. A DNF, it's usually an extremely reliable car and very, very kind on fuel economy too. So a bit of a shock there that it's bowed out of this one.
Yeah, the diesel Alfa Romeo, they were counting on getting through the race on much fewer pit stops than their main rivals, but obviously a mechanical problem for that car and it's pulled off to the side of the racetrack. Maybe the team can do some work on that car and get it back into the race a bit later on, but obviously a major setback to their chances of a good finish in this event.
Yeah, getting it back to the pits is the million-dollar question at the moment as the Mini makes its way down pit lane. The Midwest Multimedia machine in 11th place comes into the pits. Phil Alexander behind the wheel at the moment.
And that car was running in position number 11 at the time. In it comes now, and another team that's very experienced in endurance racing, the Trevor Keane-owned car. This car's run in the Bathurst 12 Hour in the past. It's also been a regular competitor in the Australian Manufacturers Championship over the last 4 or 5 seasons.
Now this is what it's all about. Fuel going in and limited work allowed to be done on the car while that is taking place. That's purely a safety precaution. Adds a little bit of time to the pit stops, but by the same token, we're here for 8 hours at least, and everybody has to do exactly the same thing. A driver change taking place.
Phil Alexander getting out of the car, and it looks like Trevor Keane will take over the wheel. Yes, he does. So Trevor Keane, the car's owner, jumping in to do the second stint for this motor race. The team obviously taking the opportunity to refuel the car, and they're going to do a tyre change as well. They'll do the front tyres. This, of course, being a front-wheel drive car, it's the front tyres that cop the majority of the tyre wear.
There's the 33 car making its way up through the field at the moment.
And lapping the 2 Renault entries there, the number 97 safety stop car and the number 35 car, the Neil Crompton Glen Seaton car, starting to work its way into contention after starting from pit lane as well. It's moved up the order into the top 3 now. And Phil Alexander, he's done his opening stint. He's down with Yanina in the pits to talk about what it was like.
Phil Alexander, were you worried another tyre was going to blow out there?
I was very, I had a fair loss of confidence over the back, and it felt exactly the same as the other one. So rather than risk blowing, either creating an accident or doing another very slow lap, I made the call to come in. We did a driver change, refuel, and we're putting on some harder tyres because it's a very, very hot day, and it's the first time we've used the tyres that are perhaps giving us a problem. Other than that, car's fine.
Well, the pit stops continue. Here is the 33 car that's been pretty much featured over the last hour or so. It has been involved in absolutely everything. 42 laps in the bank. It comes in from 5th place. There is going to be a driver change here as well.
And a drink bottle refill for that car taking place as well. Obviously very, very hot temperatures here at Eastern Creek. Some of the drivers being asked to do very long stints in the race cars, so important to keep their fluid levels up during the duration of the race.
Nice and smooth on the driver change. Plenty of time. There's no need to rush. It's more important to make sure that you get everything done right the first time, so you don't have to come back into pit lane or cause yourself some sort of other problem that's going to affect your race.
It's Steve Glennie, the tarmac rally specialist, who's getting in behind the wheel of that car, and he's had some great success in Mitsubishi Evo 10s at Eastern Creek in the Australian Manufacturers Championship. Very, very fast throughout practice and qualifying, and he will be on a charge once that car rejoins the race. A pit stop for the BMW team as well. Car number 11 of Gary Holt, Nathan Morecambe and Barry Morecambe.
Now, we did see a driver change there too, I think, from memory. Yep, they put the screen up, so that was an indication that they've had a driver change. Lenny just getting himself comfortable behind the wheel. Pit stop continues. The Clark and Tony Quinn car comes into pit lane. Tony, a bit late on the brakes, comes in from first spot. The 77 car may not go out onto the track in that position.
Well, the number 77 car now leads the race as a result of this car, which was the race leader coming into the pits. So the Subaru STI, the Jim Hunter, Barton Moore, Gavin Buller's car assumes first position in this motor race. But of course, once pit stop shuffle sorts itself out, the Tony and Clark Quinn car will be back in the lead, and you'd have to say they've been the dominant force throughout this race so far.
Let's have a look at this car making its way over the top of the mound. We've got the CROMPTON car up in the second spot after starting from pit lane. Well, Tony Quinn's just got out of his car from first place. Wonder how he's feeling.
The car's going good. It's going fine, but those tyres obviously don't last as long as the Bridgestones. So I think the Evo 10s were getting us at the end, but the tyres were just buggered. And that one's flat. So.
Are you feeling it in the last few laps there?
Yeah, the last 4 laps I thought, it's just getting a bit skady, but obviously it's a slow puncture that's just been going down and down and down.
And a good opportunity to pass over to your son?
Yeah, he'll be fine. He can do a double stint.
You've both got experience doing endurance. Does it give you confidence here when you're...
No, look, we just do the best we can. The reason we're here, really, is that the last couple of events we've done, the brakes haven't lasted. But it looks like we've got a good package now, so hopefully we can compete in some events.
What can you tell us about the Mitsubishi Evolution 9?
Oh, look, I think it's a great car. It's obviously not as quick as the 10s. And I don't know what they can do about that. The 10s have a much higher boost rating than our one. But we just keep driving. You never know what's going to happen.
You had CROMPTON on your tail?
I didn't see him, but he'd be there. But I was waiting for him. I was waiting for him to catch up.
Well, Tony Quinn certainly driven an exceptional opening stint. He's handed the car over to his son, Clark Quinn, to take over the good work. We've got the number 38 Products car on screen at the moment, currently in 4th position with Mark King still at the wheel of that car, just ahead of the Renault Clio of Richard Garton, which is in position number 8.
So after the pit stops, there's been a bit of jockeying for position out there, and the cars are trying to settle themselves down at the moment. The safety stop machine on your screen at the moment. Here's a team of very keen, enthusiastic motor racers that have been around for quite some time. Francois Joy teaming up with Gartner, Booker and Shembry. And what's this? The 35 car back down in pit lane.
Neil CROMPTON coming in for the first pit stop for this car. This will be for a tyre change. Neil CROMPTON's going to stay at the wheel of this car. He's not going to get out, so he will do a double stint. But once again, tyres the limiting factor, and the one thing that seems to be determining just how far these cars are going in a stint, not necessarily how far they can go on a tank of fuel.
What's going to be interesting, Lachlan, is to find out exactly where the car does feed back in. Remember, they started from pit lane and they've come out and found themselves right at the very front of the field. Now, this is the Glennie car.
And this is a mechanical black flag for no window net, so an unscheduled pit stop, and very, very quickly attended to there by a member of the Products team, but that's valuable time lost for that car.
Remember, during the pit stops, I was telling you that they've got to get it right, because that's what can cost you a race, and there is the living proof. Glennie forced to come back into pit lane and have a window net put on, and it's not just the time to do that, but the time to go in and out of pit lane and get back up to race pace that will cost them.
Now, the BMW 335i is battling here to stay on the lead lap. It's just ahead of the race leader, which is the Subaru at the moment, and now loses that position. So that car now goes a lap down on our race leaders.
Gee, the Jim Hunter Motorsport car is really on song today, isn't it? They've worked pretty hard on this machine, and it's paying dividends out there at the moment. Getting past the BMW and picking up another spot, and it's looked strong right from the get-go.
Remember, though, that because they had to make that earlier pit stop with the flat front tyre, they didn't have to put as much fuel in to fill the car up with the tank of fuel. So after the first round of pit stops, that's the reason that that car's emerged with the race lead, because they did a shorter first pit stop than their main rival. So that will all balance out as the race progresses.
And with the flat tyre, they didn't have to give Gavin Bullis too much of a wind-up either. Speaking of a wind-up, we'll be back right after this break to take a look at further action of the 8 hour here at Eastern Creek. Welcome back to Eastern Creek International Raceway. We are counting down the minutes in the 8-hour enduro. There's the Jim Hunter Motorsport Subaru Impreza in pit lane at the moment with a driver change going on. Gavin Bullis has just hopped out. That's the helmet of Barton Moore that you can see helping Jim Hunter get into the car. It's good to see Bart out there and being hands-on, but by the same token, Lockie, he was like that when he was in the UK, raced in the British Formula 3 Championship and spent the first 3 months that he was over there living sitting in the team's garage because budget was a major issue for him. And that's not too bad when it's 36 degrees here at Eastern Creek, but not much fun in the UK when it's snowing.
No, but certainly a very determined and talented driver is Barton Moore. He's had success not only overseas but also here in Australia, racing in the Australian Formula 3 Championship and also the Carrera Cup National Series. The team owner Jim Hunter gets behind the wheel of the number 77 Subaru STI, taking over from Gavin Bullis, who's done a double stint in that car, and a very, very good job too from Gavin Bullis. He has copped a few tyre issues and also had some great battles with the Mitsubishis, and he's down in the pits to tell Sammy about it all.
And we're here with Gavin Bullis, who's just stepped out of the Hunter STI. A bit hot out there, mate.
Oh, very hot, and it's going to get hotter this afternoon, but we got to the lead, and that's where we want to try and keep it, so as long as we can stay up with the Evos, we'll be fine.
And we noticed that you didn't change tyres in that pit stop, is that right?
No, because I got a puncture halfway through that first session, so I actually double stinted, so anyway, well, hopefully we won't get any more punches and we'll be fine.
Okay, and how's the actual race going out there? A fair bit of overtaking. We've got some very different cars here.
Yeah, there's a lot of slower cars out there, and they're not looking in the mirrors. I ended up tagging one of them and took a right-hand mirror off, but other than that, it was okay. You know, most of the guys are pretty switched on, so we don't have too many problems.
Yeah, because with this kind of tyre wear, throwing everyone's strategy out, it's very difficult to then have the race and some of the cars running into you, eh?
Actually, it's good, isn't it? You know, hopefully the Evos will burn their tyres up and we'll be right and we'll come home with a blast. So we'll see how we go, but keep our fingers crossed for later today.
Not too much Evo STI rivalry there at all, is there?
No, not at all.
All right, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much.
Well, he's certainly a tough campaigner, Gavin Bullis, as you can see by the side of the car with that mirror off the Hunter Motorsport machine. Here's a good battle. Quinn up the inside. Clark Quinn at the helm of the 29 VIP Pet Foods machine. Side by side. Unbelievable. Look at the pressure that these two guys are placing on each other. Let's go down and catch up with Glenn Seaton and see how he's seeing the action.
So, we missed you out on the grid this morning, Glenn Seaton. What happened?
I just got a little bit of a bug overnight and it knocked me around a bit, but I'm pretty good now. So when Neil finishes this stint, he's out there now. I'll hop in the car and do my share of the race.
Fantastic. We heard from your teammates it might have been a stray bit of seafood.
A stray bit of seafood? No, it wasn't a stray bit of seafood, but I don't know what it really was, to tell you the truth, but it knocked me around a bit last night, but I'm pretty good now.
Okay, it seemed to work to your advantage starting from out of pit lane. Saved a little bit of fuel, saved a lap, you're about to jump back in. Is the strategy working well so far?
Yeah, it's pretty good. The only issues, and I think everyone up and down pit lane is the tyre wear and the delamination of some of the tyres. It's sort of, first set of tyres, Neil went right through, no problem, had no issues with them, and then we just had to pit early then because it delaminated the tyres. So just being able to manage that's probably the most important part.
Well, Glenn Seaton still yet to get behind the wheel of the car that he's sharing with Neil Crompton, one of the unluckiest drivers, you would have to say, in Australian endurance racing, but the car that continues to dominate the opening stanza of the race is the car we're on board with right now, the VIP Pet Foods number 29 Mitsubishi Evo 9 of Tony and Clark Quinn, with Clark Quinn currently at the wheel of that car.
Always been tough campaigners, the Quinn family. And they do exactly what they do on the racetrack in business too. They win. And VIP Pet Foods has grown from absolutely nothing when Tony Quinn first arrived in Australia to the conglomerate that it is now. Clark Quinn, very much part of the VIP Pet Foods, if you like, regime. He's been working there as production manager for many, many years. A hands-on guy, and they managed to put everything away and come and play motorsport racing every couple of weekends, and they're very competitive out there.
Here's the number 000 car, the Chris Reeves owns car, making its way into the garage. So it looks like some mechanical problems with that car, and that's the car that Chris Reeves is sharing with Anthony Sewell and Bruce Colby. Brand new car, actually, that one, as we see another pit stop for one of the Product cars as well, the number 33 car of Bob Pearson and Steve Clenny. Was in third place before coming into the pits, now down to fifth position, and another flat front right tyre. This time it's for the Renault team, car number 97, Richard Gartner, Carl Chambry, Keen Booker and Francois Jouy.
Well, problems for them, but they've managed to keep the car going and they're going to make it back to the pits, which is important. They're going to lose a little bit of time, but at least they're going to be able to get back out and rejoin this race, which is important for them.
I'll tell you what, Boydo, those front right tyres are copping an absolute pounding today, aren't they? I'd absolutely hate to come back in a second life as a front right-hand tyre in an Eastern Creek 8-hour production car race.
Well, hopefully, Lockie, your karma's not that bad and you come back further up the evolutionary train. But you're right, there are a few problems with right-hand tyres. The safety stop Renault is down there in the pits.
So once again, we see Eastern Creek's claimed another victim. Very, very flat right front tyre. It's the tyre that we see the cars leaning on all the way around. And this tyre can't really hold up under these conditions under extreme driving, which we're going to see all day.
Well, they will be able to get back out onto the circuit and continue to circulate. Trevor Keane out there at the moment on board the Mini, car number 50 for Midwest Multimedia, doing the do, battling with the BMW at the moment.
That car's had a troubled run so far in this motor race, just loses a lap to the Honda Integra Type R. That's one of the highest placed of the naturally aspirated vehicles so far in this motor race, but Trevor Keane just continuing to circulate, do some more laps and hopefully try and make up some more positions as the race progresses.
That's the Conroy Hughes Burgess car just up in front at the moment as he tries to close in. Good through the tight twisty sections of the circuit is this Mini.
Yeah, it's able to carry a lot of mid-corner speed and under brakes very strong as well. And you see how quickly he gathers up the Honda Integra under braking as we head to Chris Reeves in the pits.
We're here in the 000 garage. What's going on?
We seem to have a bit of problem. We came in, everything was going fine with the HSV, but on our refuel it appears that we've got a bit of an issue with our breather on the fuel tank. Started venting out of the vent, and of course we're trying to fix that. Everything else is good. This is something we didn't expect. So.
Okay, so is it around corners? You're getting fuel loss or surge?
No, just on the fill up. So for some reason the tank's pressurised somehow and it's coming out.
So you can't actually get fuel in it?
Well, it's full. Too full maybe.
Oh wow, okay. Well, good luck getting it back out. How long do you think you'll be out for?
We're going to do around about 70 minutes stints each and just nurse it around. The tyres are going well. Federals are really good. So, you know, we're happy.
All right, hope you get back out.
Next we'll be happier.
Fair enough. Good luck.
Thank you.
In comes the number 29 VIP Pet Foods car, which continues to dominate the Eastern Creek 8 Hour. It's Clark Quinn currently at the wheel of this car, and in he comes for another scheduled pit stop. The team manager, Brett Francis, standing in front of the car there. He's the car controller. Very accomplished racing driver in his own right, Brett Francis, but also a very, very smart racing tactician. Another driver change happening here as Tony Quinn gets back into the car. They will do a drink bottle refuel with that car as well, and of course a tyre change, and also fuel it up with a full tank of fuel.
Plenty of work going on around the VIP Pet Foods machine. As you said, the driver change taking place. The boss back behind the helm. Clark just having a little bit of trouble with the window net there, but there's still plenty of time, no need to rush, even though he just probably lost a toe with the jack being dropped on it. They need to keep the pace up on the tyre change at the moment. Rear wheels going on, front going on the right-hand side now.
So it looks like they're taking the opportunity to do the load side tyres on that car. Of course, it's the right-hand side of the car at Eastern Creek that is the load side, because you've got those very fast corners. Turn number 1 in particular, and also turns 10, 11 and 12 leading back onto the main straight. They're the corners that really punch those right-hand side tyres.
Sounds like Tony's pretty keen to get out there and get on with this again. Now there's just something that they just want to make sure that pit lane is clean. That's a drink bottle sitting there. Now it's removed from pit lane. The car is free to go, but it'll drop down into second place.
Brett Francis gives Tony Quinn the go signal, and he rejoins the race in position 2.
Here he comes out of pit lane. Let's head down and catch up with Clark Quinn, the man who's just stepped out from behind the wheel of the 29 machine.
How is it out there as far as having to dodge the traffic?
Yeah, look, really minimal traffic, so it's not really something to worry about. You get the odd slow car, but you get that anywhere, so it's no problem. And we're just pacing the car, looking after the tyres as much as possible, because that's the biggest factor. So we're just cruising. So
Evo's a pretty light car, Evo 9. Are the tyres wearing as expected, or have you had to change strategy a little bit?
Probably a bit more than what we expected. It's you know, I'm just taking it to the squeak and just backing off every time. So you know, if I try and push that little bit extra, it's just understeers the whole way. So if you just look after the tyres, you can do consistent times lap after lap. But it's just at the edge. If you push it anymore, you'll start dropping off seconds and seconds and more. So I'm just, you know, just cruising really.
Well, we used to see them a lot in sprint racing, but over the last couple of years, the Quinns have been concentrating on enduros, 12 hours, 8 hours as here at Eastern Creek today, and 24-hour races as well. They've found a lot of fun in the endurance races that they've been involved in over the last couple of years. Here's a good little battle. It's a battle for first place that we're watching on screen at the moment. Tony Quinn, with the bit between his teeth, is on a charge.
Chasing after the race leader, which is now the Glenn Seaton Neil Crompton car. So after starting from pit lane, the strategic move to top the car up right to the brim with a full tank of fuel, get an extra couple of laps out of that first stint has paid off. That car's found itself in the race lead, but holding off a very hard charging Mitsubishi Evo 9 driven by Tony Quinn.
And don't forget, the Tony Quinn car will have fresher tyres. Yes, it's got a little bit more juice in the tank, but those fresher tyres in these hot conditions might be just enough to get him in front of the 35 product car, and he does so on the straight. And Crompton, using intelligence and just allowing him to go through there, protecting his line through turn one. He knows that it's a long day in the office. Very experienced campaigner, particularly in endurance races. Closes up under brakes just to keep Quinn right on his toes through turn two. Tries to maybe force a little mistake. Sits there in second spot in the Product 35 car.
This has been a very strong performance so far from the VIP PETFOODS team, because with the Mitsubishi Evo 9 they're actually not allowed to run as much turbo boost as the Mitsubishi Evo 10 team, so that means they're at a slight performance disadvantage. But obviously the Quinns have got the Mitsubishi Evo 9 set up very well handling wise, and they're both driving it extremely well too.
Just listening to the gear changes on board with Neil Crompton. It's just like watching a master craftsman at work, isn't it? Nice and smooth, controlled, easy on the machinery. Very easy to get a little bit overzealous. Grab a gear change, you know, do a clutch in, or even a gear stick for that matter. Need to be controlled in these enduros, and in very capable hands is that product machine at the moment. Here's the Triple O car coming back out onto the circuit after a lengthy pit stop.
Yes, it certainly was a long pit stop for that car with the number of problems. I believe they had some drivetrain problems with that car. That's what the reports were. So good to see that car rejoining the race, and some further development work as they continue to get that very new HSV Club Sport R8 up to the pace.
There's the Mini, the Keen machine, making its way down towards turn 9, being hotly pursued by the Jim Hunter Motorsport Subaru Impreza. Gee, it looks very good out there on the circuit, doesn't it? Oh, just as soon as you say that, Green, he steps it out onto the dirt. All of a sudden gets a bit keen, a little bit, excuse the pun, a little bit racy. Gets up the inside of the Mini, picks up another spot. As Neil Crompton comes in for a well-earned break, and it's Glenn Seaton that you can see just making his way around to hop into the car. Well, Cromley's been a non-full-time motorsport driver for a long time, and he really worked hard. 86 laps he has completed. That, in these weather conditions, for a non-full-time driver, is no mean feat.
That's very true. As you mentioned, he doesn't race on a regular basis anymore, and certainly wouldn't be used to spending that amount of time in a car, particularly with the ambient temperatures as high as they are at the moment. Ambient temperatures in the mid-30s, so cockpit temperatures will be in excess of 50 degrees as we see the BMW coming in as well, and a driver change being completed by that team as well, with Barry Morecambe hopping into the 335i.
Now, Barry Morecambe's been racing in production car racing for quite some time. Oh, problems. We'll come back to that point. Now, we've got problems out there.
Yep, the Chris Reeves, Bruce Colbing, Anthony Sewell car have stopped at turn 2, and that will trigger a safety car intervention because that is quite a hazardous position on the circuit.
Now, Lockie, as a betting man, would you have been surprised that we got this far into the race and now only having our first safety car?
Well, when we had the Eastern Creek 6-hour production car race earlier in the year, we got through the whole 6 hours safety car free, but not the case this time around, and indeed the safety car will come out, so this will trigger a flurry of pit stops, one would imagine.
Now this is quite interesting because the VIP Pet Foods car has elected to come into pit lane and top up their fuel to maximise their advantage under the safety car. Here's what happened to the Triple O machine. Nothing spectacular, just realised that once again they had drive issues, pulled off to the outside of turn 2, and the officials saying, yeah, not the safest part of the track to park. We might come out, call out a safety car and remove you from harm's way. Great looking machine.
Certainly is, as we get ready for a restart here. Restart number 1 in the Eastern Creek 8-hour. Now, the car at the head of the queue, the number 35 car, with Glenn Seaton at the wheel, is not actually the race leader. In fact, he's almost a lap down on the VIP Pet Foods car. The reason being that both those cars came into the pits under the safety car, and the number 35 car was effectively trapped behind the safety car. So it's now a battle for Glenn Seaton just to stay on the lead lap.
Well, he's been coaching his son in go-kart racing, Cedo, for quite some time now, so now it's time for the roles to be reversed. Perhaps his son can start coaching him and say, keep your foot down, but don't forget Glenn not feeling 100%. In fact, it was Dr. Anton Metschler who's racing for one of the other cars this weekend that we spent a bit of time with Cedo to try and help him out this weekend to get him in the car from a medical standpoint, but good to see that sort of friendship up and down pit lane.
What Cedo would love right now would be another safety car period, because then the safety car would come out in front of the VIP Pet Foods car and allow him to go round, join onto the back of the queue and effectively get his lap back. But it doesn't look like there's any chance of another safety car anytime soon. There's the other two Product cars running nose to tail, the Bob Pearce and Steve Glennie car just ahead of the Mark King, Anton Metschler, Jason Walsh entry.
Well, the VIP car knows that it's in the lead and knows that if it's going to overtake, it needs to do it cleanly. Oh, problems for the Mini. The Go-Jacks have come out, which is an indication that they're going to push it straight back into the garage. Oh, that's not what we wanted to see. They've been a solid little combination this weekend, but the Midwest Multimedia, Keane, Alexander and Heath car being put into the garage. Let's hope that they are able to get back out onto the circuit, but they're not the only ones in pit lane at the moment with problems with machinery.
We've got Anthony in the car. Obviously, you're going to get started soon if you're still sitting in here.
Hopefully, yeah. We're just doing a drive shaft, and hopefully that'll fix the problem we had. So.
Done a dry shaft, too much grip.
Yeah, hopefully that's the problem. We've just got to try and get to the end, and if we can do that, it'll be good.
Yeah, well, you can make your minimum laps and get through there okay. You should be all right. So the fuel problem that you guys had earlier, this is obviously not related?
No, not related. Just, I think, a bit of fatigue in the drive shaft. Just the boot melted out and the grease disappeared, and it decided to part company with the wheel. So